So, Michelle, how are you doing today?
Good.
Sweet. So, you are one of the top people that people have been asking me about.
Really?
Yeah. They say, hey, have you ever thought about, a lot of people have asked about if I could get someone that works in real estate. And then they say, hey, do you know who Michelle is? I'm like, I heard of her. And then they say, Maloney. I'm like, she the one that owns Maloney Real Estate? And they're like, yeah. So, yeah, you're also one of those top people that people recommend.
Well, that's very flattering.
So-
I think. I don't know. It depends on your questions, I guess.
Now, so what do you do?
I'm a real estate broker and a business coach and an investor.
So when did you start that your real estate thing?
It was, I think, November 26th of 2013.
Has that always been your dream, or how does that happen?
No, I've never, everything that's I've ever done sort of just happened organically. I worked at a bar when I was in college here at USD. And one day the owner came to me and said, I want to sell it. So do you want to buy it? And I said no. And I talked to my sister about it. And she said, why would you not want to own your own business at 28 years old? I was working at Gateway Computers. I'd already graduated. So I don't want to say I fell into it, but that's kind of how it started. And then I realized after about 10 years of doing that nobody wants to see an old lady behind the bar in college town. So I thought, well, I'm going to have to do something else. My mother had been in real estate when I was younger. And so I decided I would get my license and try to sell real estate. So I started doing that, and then worked for the USD Foundation for a while, and then decided to open my own real estate company. So that's kind of how that started.
Oh, man,
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that work for they did work for USD Foundation.
There's a
See what
joke
time?
in there somewhere, but yes, true. Yes.
So when you decided to do real estate,
Mhm.
how does that work? Like, what do you got to do to, I guess, become a real estate agent?
Sure. You go to the Department of Revenue and look up what classes you can take. And you can either do it all online or you can do it. There's a couple of schools, and there's a new school in Sioux Falls actually that does it, but there's a couple of them in Sioux Falls. And you take, I think it's 120 hours worth of classes. So we went like 8 weeks in a row. I'm kind of an in-person person. So I did some of it online, and then we did like 8 weeks of classes, and then you take a test, and you literally know nothing about what you're eventually going to be doing after taking all that classwork. But, if you have some people who are willing to mentor you and show you what you're doing, it's very helpful. So it takes about, I would say, a good year to get an idea of what the job is really about. When you take the classes, they'll teach you things like how many square feet is in an acre, 43,000. Oh my gosh, I can't believe anyway. But it's like a joke that's the one thing realtors remember from the class, and I can't remember it. Anyway, other than that, none of the stuff that you learn is ever going to be, you don't ever look at meets and bounds and riparian rights and accretion rights. Anyway.
Sounds like school. Like, there's a bunch of stuff. I was just talking about that with, I think, Jesse. Was it, or with someone else? That I learned a lot more. So I studied biology, and apparently, I guess there's some of the stuff I don't use. But when I started working at USD at the med school, I was working in the lab. There's a lot of stuff you learn hands-on that you didn't learn over there, and there's a lot of stuff that I thought I would use. You never use it. So.
Right. It's foundation stuff. I mean, it's a good to know probably, but even when I took the class, I don't know. But the first time I was licensed was in 1990, so I've been doing it a long time. But before then we didn't have apps, and we didn't have. We didn't really in 1990. We didn't even really have computers per se that were personal that I could afford anyway. So you had to learn how to do amortization loans and all of that, and manually. And it was a big pain in the butt. And even when I retook the class in 2008, we still had to manually do it. And now, you just do it on your phone. There's an app for that. You had to buy like this Texas Instrument calculator that was big and clunky and just dumb.
So I guess throughout those years, what has changed a lot? I guess tech has been a big factor.
Huge. The way we get leads has changed. The way we market properties has changed. There was no Facebook. There was no Instagram. You could put an ad in the newspaper, or you could send something to someone in the mail, which people still do. But other than that, there was no access to phone numbers or emails. There was no emails. So it was just completely different. And now you can pay a company so much money a month, and they'll market to the people in your neighborhood. They'll send out postcards for you. It's just amazing.
Has it been
Expensive.
Is it easier now, or from your perspective, is it easier now for people like y'all to sell stuff, or even people to buy, or is it just different?
Well, it's certainly easier to buy. The banks have really made it. The property prices make it hard, but the banks have made it easier for people to get loans. They've increased the debt ratio that you're allowed to have in order to buy a house. Otherwise, nobody would have one. Everything is a little bit more streamlined because you can do everything. You can go online, and I don't recommend this, by the way, but you can go online and find a bank online. Always recommend you use a local lender, someone you can go sit in their desk, look at them in the face, and ask a question, because most of the online banks, you'll never talk to the same person twice. They don't know you. They don't know your payment history. They don't know your reputation in the community. All of those things should be weighed, in my opinion.
I want to thank today's sponsor, Main Street Inn. If you're ever in Vermillion, South Dakota, and looking for a place to stay, I highly, highly recommend the Main Street Inn. A 7,000 square foot fraternity renovated to be the only bed and breakfast in town. They have a living room, dining room, 5 beautiful rooms if you need to spend the night. You can also book the place for graduations, birthdays, weddings, you name it. The owners are great, and they serve breakfast, of course. Go check it out at 221 East Main Street. Link will be in the description below. Now, I asked Jesse this. So in town, there's 3. It's y'all, Premier, and Dakota Realty.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Are you guys? I think I just asked this to Jesse, but are y'all guys like enemies, or everyone's pretty friendly?
No, not at all. In fact,
Okay.
I just saw a couple of people from Dakota Realty at lunch at Mamacita's and said hello. I've eaten lunch with them several times. Yeah, no, we're colleagues. It's certainly competitive, of course, and every now and again your client strays and goes to somebody else, and that burns a little bit. But for the most part, we have a very, very good professional relationship, I think.
What did you think about Mamacitas?
I thought it was great.
So we also
Love the decor. It's my jam.
We finally went there on not Saturday, Sunday. We finally went there. A friend of ours works there, so she's one of the servers. She invited us, and I went inside. The first time I went inside, and I was like, "Oh, this looks like nice. It looks really. I like the environment." I found out I like the music. They changed it, because I remember the first time because sometimes we'll drop her off. They had like country music. I'm not against country music. It just didn't fit the environment for me. But this time they had like real like Spanish music.
Right.
We ordered food, and so what I ordered just some. It was called a burrito mexicano. I didn't like it, and I'll explain why. But my wife ordered. I forget what she ordered, but it came in a molcajete, and it came with
molcajete is the best.
Yeah, it came with it came with beef. It came with chorizo, some salsa, shrimp. I don't know if it came with chicken, and it was really good. My daughter got chilaquiles, green. Those were really, really good. And also, you know how they give you the chips and salsa?
Yeah.
The red one, Myra, my wife, she asked if they had like something spicier. And they said, yeah, they have a salsa tomatillo. So it came out and it's like green. It's spicy and it's really, really good. So I don't know if people know about that, but if you guys like spicy.
So that's a little restaurant secret you're giving us.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
good.
that one was good. And I think on the chilaquiles, because my daughter asked, she said, is it green or red? And they said, well, I think we can make anything. And she said, can you give me green? And it's good. It's not spicy, but it has more like a acidic flavor, but it's really good.
So like a very lime forward.
There you go. Yeah, like that. But my food it wasn't bad. For some, I get picky. I get picky like for the tortillas, the flour. I'm used to my wife making homemade. Of course, this is different. So for me, it has this awkward smell, and it was ground beef. And I was just saying it was bland, but everything else, what they got, was really, really good. I'm just saying, I don't know, maybe it was just a bad dish I got, but the other ones, I need to know what my wife got, because that one was really good. And also came with the nopal, or with the cactus. So people want to try it. It's really good. Yeah,
everyone that I've been with loved their meal. I've been there 3 times. I get the same thing every time.
What do you get?
It's like they said it's baked potato. It's like pabe something. I I can point to it on the menu, but
Okay.
I can't pronounce it. But anyway, it's got chicken and cheese and vegetables, like grilled vegetables, and then it's but it's not like I was expecting like a potato cut with a bunch of stuff, but it's like cubed potatoes.
Okay,
So it's
now I
super
get it.
easy to eat.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
really, really good. Very cheesy. If you don't like cheese, don't get it.
Okay, I need to read more of the menu then.
It's on the second page in the entrees.
Okay.
Toward the bottom.
I'll look at it.
It's really good.
One of the things that surprised me though on like the menu, it usually has the the usual Tex-Mex stuff, but it had Philly cheesesteak sandwich. I was like, that's a little bit.
Well, I think
different.
everybody, they're always trying to. Every time I've been to Mexico, they've got to have something that appeals to somebody who doesn't like Mexican food.
Yeah.
So, I think that was part of the country music thing too. Maybe they're trying to like, maybe not overwhelm people, but
Oh, I guess you're right. But
I think they should lean into it personally.
Yeah.
But the only thing they're missing, in my opinion, is tequila, which I understand. It's expensive.
Oh, they don't
So I love. Well, they have wine based, but I love a good margarita. From what I understand, and I don't know anyone who's involved with the project, but the rumor on the street is that it's in the works eventually.
Oh, okay. Is it hard to get? So with the
Now with a restaurant, it's not hard at all, but it's $94,000 hard, so it's expensive.
That's how much it is to get a
Yes.
license, or is it
94 or 97, something like that.
is it a wine? No, what is it called? A liquor license?
Liquor license. Yep.
It costs 90.
Then you can have beer, wine, and spirits.
Whoa, why so expensive? I guess because there's a limit.
So in the state of South Dakota, there's a limit on the amount of them that you can have.
Mhm.
And so like when I sold Carrie's, I don't even remember what it was. I think it was right around that I got for that license. And so it's part of the value of the business. So if you then all of a sudden make it free for everybody, that devalues the business for the people who already paid that kind of money for it. But once you get past a certain population, then they release another license, which I think we have, but they still will charge that same amount. Like in Sioux Falls, it's like $500,000. In fact, I think in Sioux Falls, they do a lottery and then you can bid on it.
Whoa. Would there be is it a problem if let's say there was like no limit on licenses? Would that be a
Well,
problem?
in Nebraska and Iowa, that's how it is.
So it's
There's
just,
no limit, but it's only like $1,500 for the license.
would it be better though if they did that in South Dakota?
Yes. The short answer is yes.
Okay.
I mean, yes.
Okay.
Because then I think you'd have more people who would be willing to have the opportunity, but the cost barrier is so high for people. They don't really want to say, I know, I'll start a bar, because it's not a small investment by the time you get the building and the fixtures.
Yeah.
Starting one from scratch. I mean, you can buy someone else's, sure,
So
but that won't be cheap either.
Jesse said you were also like an entrepreneur. So you had a bar. Is there anything else that you had?
I started Scoop's Ice Cream Store, which is now Cow and Spoon,
Yeah, she told me about that.
in the former public restroom building.
Mhm.
It was called Scoops, and everyone told me I should call it From Poops to Scoops, but I didn't. And so I think that was a much better repurposing of that building. It turned out great. And Cow and Spoon has taken it to the next level, which is great. I was one of the co-founders of Red Steakhouse, Jared Higman and his wife Peggy and my husband Kevin and I. And we did that for a few years, and then Jared and Peggy bought us out. And what else? I opened my real estate company. I started a property management company.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you're gonna open up?
Not that I can think of right now, but I don't know. I'm only 54, so we'll see.
Okay. Would you open up like something huge, like let's say a biotech company for the students or nothing like that?
So no, because I don't know anything about it.
Okay.
And if somebody else if they want a building, I'll build the building, sure. The one thing I would love to do is, and this has been my dream, and Jim Peterson, if he watches this, or listen to it, is going to cringe, but in the land that's over by Polaris, just to the south of Polaris, and right basically at the corner of 19 and Cherry Street, I think that would be the perfect location to put in batting cages and miniature golf, maybe even a go-kart track.
Yeah, I see.
I would love it. We've got Polaris right there. They could have all the jackets. We could do USD stuff. I just think it would be great for something for students. Well, my husband and I have no kids. And so on the weekends, we're always looking for something different to do. And in the winter, it gets a little bit, because we'll play golf during the summer. But in the winter, there's not much you can do that's inside other than the 20 hours a week of USD athletics, which we do that already. But I would totally go play.
Yeah.
I would swing a bat in a batting cage. I would play miniature golf. I would ride the go-karts, play video games. I don't care,
have
just something.
maybe have a little bowling alley
Yeah,
inside.
maybe a
Arcade.
beer license there.
There you go.
Yeah, it'd be fun, right? And,
Yeah.
a place for the kids. I mean, every parent I've talked to in my real estate business has said, what is there for my kids to do that are under the age of 18 or even under the age of 25 to do so they can expend some energy? There's nothing to do. I mean, there is stuff to do, but the perception is there's nothing to do.
No, you are right, because you're not the only one that has said that. I complain a lot sometimes, but it's, stuff for kids or for families.
Yeah.
Because they think, like, I have a daughter who's 9. Yeah, 9. I hope I remember that. And, we're like, I'll ask her, like, do you like it here? She says, yeah. But she says, it's kind of boring. I wish there was more stuff to do.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like when we go to Sioux Falls or Sioux City, like maybe
Sure.
we'll go to like Chuck E. Cheese or like they got Sky Zone or something like that.
Yeah.
But if they had something here
Go to
too,
the Children's Museum. You can go to the Washington Pavilion downtown.
mm-hmm.
Great place. The Kirby Science Discovery Center is great.
Yeah. So when are you gonna open that? That's a very good idea.
And if he's listening, Larry Brady, if I could get Larry Brady to sell me the land for inexpensive, you guys can all work on him for me.
That one's a great.
I would totally do that. I think that'd be a fun project.
The go-kart, I wish.
I think you'd draw people from Yankton, from Centerville, from North Sioux City. I think it would just be a great Elk Point.
I don't even think. Also, like we mentioned, it could be for kids, but also like college students would be good. Even I would do it. Like
that's what I'm saying. My husband and I would do it.
Yeah,
we're old. So, but I think I think of all the USD stuff you can put in there. I think it would be so great for recruitment and retention at the university. I think it'd be great.
Any other ideas that you are thinking? That one's a really, really great idea.
I'm pretty tapped. I don't have time for much more than that. So that would be the only thing that I would stretch my time limits for that.
I like that idea. I want to go back to the real estate stuff a little bit. So how long have you been in that business again?
I was first licensed in 1990 and then got licensed again in 2006. Then I went back to college and then I got licensed again in 2008, I believe. So it's right around 17 years of actual work.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you a little about the history because I wish I paid attention, but I think I was just either barely started middle school. But that 2008 housing crisis thing?
Yeah.
What happened? Like what happened?
So there was there wasn't enough houses on the market, and then there was like an explosion of building of houses, and properties started to appreciate very rapidly. And so a lot of people got into speculative home building, and prices rose, and people thought that it was never going to end. And then lenders were offering 0 money down, 40-year mortgages. There were some predatory lenders that were not checking credit scores or taking any credit score. And then there was some thought that the appraisers weren't doing their job on what properties were actually worth. And there was just not enough checks and balances in place. And a lot of people got really burned by it. So, there wasn't as much foreclosures in Vermillion or in South Dakota per se. We never saw the crazy, California kind of, my property I bought for $50,000 and it's worth $400,000 today. Not that quickly, but places like Florida, California, Texas really, really got burned.
So after that, is that when they started making like more restrictions on who they lend money to a little bit?
Well, yeah, they put in the, I think it's called the Dodd-Frank Act, if I'm not mistaken. And then I think Elizabeth Warren did a bunch of truth in lending work as well. I could be mixing this up. I'm sorry. But anyway, so there's new regulations on the forms that we have to use and how clear we have to be about the terms of loan. A lot of these people did not know that their mortgages were going to be sold and that the rates could change when they were. There was a lot of people who didn't know that their mortgage rate was adjustable.
The ARM loans, right?
What's that?
Is that what they had, the ARM?
Yes. Yep.
Oh, okay.
So they got a loan at, let's just say 5%. And then after 3 years, it went up to 8%. And some lenders were charging more than that. So a lot of people lost their homes. A lot of people lost their businesses.
Okay. But in this area during that time, it was
not as bad. Not as bad.
Oh, okay.
There was a few foreclosures. I mean, when I got my license in 2008, everyone said to me, why are you getting your license? This is the worst time. In fact, I believe the first year that I was licensed in real estate, that first summer, which would be summer of '09, I think there were like 65 houses on the market in Vermillion.
65?
65.
Whoa.
I think the most we had last year, including mobile homes, was like 28.
Mhm.
So that was a lot.
And then before and after COVID, has it changed, or like the housing market stuff?
Yes, drastically.
By a lot?
Yes. Anyone who bought their house in 2019 or 2020 even.
Wow. Was it because the interest rate dropped during that time?
The
like
interest
21?
rates dropped ridiculously low in 2020 and 2021 because of COVID. And they were trying to stimulate the economy, or I don't know, they were lending money at very low cost, so banks were willing to lend it out to everybody.
Mhm.
And so yeah, there was people who were one of my friends has a 15-year loan on her house, and it's 1.8% interest.
Whoa.
Mhm.
She's lucky.
I'm a board member for the South Dakota Development Corporation, and we do SBA loans for businesses and business expansion typically. And I remember getting something from our CEO, and it was like 2.5% on a business loan. That's insane. That's free money is what that is.
Is it gonna, I guess in the future or years, I don't know how the predictions work with y'all, but do you see like dropping, going up, staying the same, or is it just like unpredictable?
The interest rates?
Yeah, for like a house.
So like for residential?
Yeah.
Well, the Fed has indicated that they are going to be dropping the rates twice before the end of the year. And then this morning I looked and they dropped it 0.25%. So the last time they dropped it, it actually creeped up a little bit. And then everyone thought they were going to wait until after the election. And then right after the election, they went up. The interest rates went up, not the Fed rate.
Oh, okay.
And then now the Fed cut it another 0.25% today. So I would imagine interest rates are going to go down. They've indicated they're going to cut it again. Residential mortgage rates typically follow the 10-year Treasury note. And so if you ever want to know what you think is going to happen with the mortgage rates, you can follow the 10-year Treasury note pretty close.
Oh, okay.
And that will tell you.
So let's say I wanted to buy a house. Let's say my first time home buyer, well, I guess I would. What's the process? Like, how would and I wanted to contact y'all. I'm like, hey, I heard about Michelle. They're great. Let me go to them. Like, how does it work?
Sure.
Yeah.
So the first thing I would talk to you about is, have you talked to a lender? And a lot of times people are turned off by that. They think realtors will only show you a house if you can prove you can buy one. And part of that is true. But you don't know what you're approved for until you go to a lender. And let's just say you went to a lender tomorrow and they said, based on your income, you're approved for a $300,000 home. You could buy a nice house for $300,000 that's probably bigger than you need and more than you want to spend. So just because the lender says that you are qualified to spend this doesn't mean that's what your comfort level is. And the last thing you want to do is have a client who's in a house that every month they're worried about, what if you want to go on a vacation? What if you want to buy a Christmas present? So we bring in more than just what your financial status is from the bank and talk to you about, like, what is the kind of house that you want to buy? Like, is this something, what we talk about is if, like, for instance, if you were coming here to work at the university, is this going to be like a 5-year job for you, or are you planning on staying here forever? Because if you're going to come to me in 3 to 5 years and tell me you want to sell your house again, we got to buy it a little smarter on the front end. I need to look at what's going to be easy to resell, what's priced probably on the lower end of the market for you. Should we look at something that maybe you can put in a little bit of sweat equity, or hire someone to do a little bit of equity building things for you, finish a basement or something, that when you go to sell it in 3 to 5 years, you're going to do okay?
Oh, okay. Is it, now when you sell the house, now let's say I do have the house and now I want to sell it, is that process like completely different now? Or is there a reason I have to go to a realtor?
Well, I would say yes. I think it's proven that people who sell their house through a realtor typically get more money. We find that a lot of sellers really enjoy having to sort of transfer the day-to-day, the marketing, the talking to people and making sure that, the house is ready, talking to people about setting up a showing. There's just a lot of, I've had several people who listed their house for sale by owner on Zillow and then called me and said, can you please just take this over? I don't want to talk to all these people. and then they're the ones who are showing their own home, and people aren't always very kind when they're in your house, And so, helping you navigate what things you need to do to make it that you're going to get the most money possible you can for your house. I have people who I'll sell them a house in this year, for instance, and they have no intention of leaving. They maybe they're 5 years out from selling, and they'll call me and say, I'm thinking about either, putting in new windows or redoing my kitchen. Which one should I do? Which one's going to give me the best return on investment? So I answer a lot of those questions all year round from people who sometimes don't move for another 10 years, but they just want to know, just in case, if my spouse gets this job and we have to move, should I do this?
Is it always a good idea to buy a house versus just renting? Because I always thought, nah, I'd rather just rent. Why would I want a house? I don't want to cut the yard, because when I was a kid, I had to cut the yard. I don't want to do all this stuff.
Yeah.
But I guess now it's changed. But is there a reason? Is it always like a good idea?
Yeah. I mean, it's proven that people who own their own home build wealth at a much greater rate. If you ever filled out a form talking about what your net worth is, and not that I think the whole world is your net worth, because I think there's a lot of people who are really happy with a low net worth. I'm just saying, if that's something that's of interest to you, and you look at someone who's renting versus someone who's owning, first of all, when you own, if you get a fixed rate loan, your payment, your rent to yourself is never going to go up other than your taxes and your insurance. So whereas like I own investment properties, and there's a property that I own that when I bought the place was getting $350 a month, and it now brings in $900 a month. If the same and I haven't owned it for, I think I've owned it for maybe 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
So in that 7 years, had I been renting that place, it would have almost tripled my payment, but as a renter. But as an owner, that number would have stayed at $350 plus whatever incremental increases would have been for taxes and insurance. Plus, then when I go to sell it, if I go and sell it if I bought it for $100,000 and I sell it for $150,000, that $50,000 is mine.
Mm-hmm.
When you pay rent every month and you leave that property and you rent someplace else, you walk away with nothing. So all the payments that you made, you don't get anything back for.
Okay, I get it now. With the equity part, because let's use that example. Let's say I have a house. Let's say I bought it for $300,000. Usually houses go up in value, right? Most of the time, like
year over year, time over time, including the market crash in 2008, and there was another one in the 70s and another one in 1981. If you include all of that, year over year, the average is 5%.
Okay.
Year.
So let's say I bought it for $300,000, and then years pass, and now let's say it's worth like $325,000.
Okay.
And people are, oh yeah, you have our equity or this and that. But in my mind, I would be like, well, sure, let's say it is worth more, but why would I want to sell it? Because I want to live in my house, right? Or is the point like buying and selling, like, or is it different? Like, you feel me a little bit?
Well, that's where meeting with a realtor first to talk to you about what exactly is your goal with this house. I do the same thing when I talk to investors. Are you a buy and hold investor, or are you someone who just wants to buy this house and rent it out, max it out, fix up the yard, make it look nice, rent it for the maximum amount value you can, and then sell it, right? So it's the same thing if you're an owner. So do you want to buy this house for $300,000? That's probably it. Let's just say that was a not in great shape price. It's not, but let's just say it is. And you repainted it yourself all summer long. You redid the wood floors yourself. And now after that and just regular appreciation, the house is worth $325,000.
Okay.
And when you own your own home, you don't have to pay capital gains on it if you sell it, if it's your primary residence.
Oh, you have to pay capital gains if
it's an investment property and you own it less than 2 years. Yeah, there's short-term capital gains and long-term capital gains. So
with the property taxes, why? I don't think it's an issue. No, let me go back to it. With the property tax, I always wondered, like, since you have to pay like every year and it kind of goes up, how come they do that instead of saying, oh yeah, let's do it like how if you buy like a product, you pay taxes on it. Is it better if they do that on a house? Oh yeah, there's taxes, just pay it off in that 30 years and that's it? Or how come they do it like every single year?
The taxes?
Yeah, like property
Well, that's
tax?
how the county raises money to
Mm.
fix up your roads, pay for your schools, everything.
Okay.
So that's how all of that gets done. That's
So no
the
matter.
main way that gets done. Yes. So there are, like the state of California, for instance,
Mhm.
if I buy my house for $100,000, which that wouldn't even be a garage, but for $100,000, they charge property tax of 1.25% on that property, and it never goes up. So there's little old ladies who are living in California that are sitting on a house that they maybe spent $100,000 on in 1965 that are worth, the lot is worth, let's just say $4 million.
Mhm.
But they're still only paying taxes, property taxes, on the $100,000 valuation.
Oh, okay.
But would you not argue that the cost of everything for the state has gone up
Yeah.
and the counties?
Uh-huh.
That's why they've got a little bit of a financial problem.
Ah.
That's just one South Dakota realtor who knows nothing opinion, but yes.
And also, so let's say also the example, I wanted to buy a house. Is there a reason why, like, I guess you were saying, like, it depends what I want. Like, is there a reason why I would go with, let's say, single family house or versus like half a duplex or versus
Yeah,
a
it's called
small one
house
and this
hacking.
one
It's a
that.
great idea.
Yeah. Does it depend on what exactly I want? Or is there something like that?
Well, are you talking about like if you buy one half of the duplex and somebody else buys the other half, like a twin home out of Bliss Point?
Yeah.
Well, I think there's the perception that there's less maintenance involved with a duplex, that the yard is obviously smaller. A lot of times, developers will have a homeowners association associated with it so that somebody else takes care of the lawn and all of that for you. A lot of times they don't have basements, so it's sort of a maintenance-free option for homeowners. So I just sold one last month. People really like them.
I always wondered that because with the duplexes, because I know, like, for example, you could buy you buy half of it, but I always wondered because me and my mom, we always wonder, like, why would someone want to buy, I guess, half of it and live? I guess because the walls are together, because then you don't get privacy. That's why I always wondered, like, why don't people mostly?
Well, there are stipulations more for fire than privacy or noise, but that the common walls have like they're doubly thick, they're doubly insulated for fire suppression
Oh,
than
okay.
anything.
So no problem.
But yeah, so I sold a couple on Rockwell Trail, and the one couple had 3 dogs, and then the person who was buying the one next door was all worried about the dogs. So we literally, while we were looking at the house, I talked to my clients over and at the ones with the dogs and said, "Can you get the dogs all riled up? Because they want to know if they can hear your dogs barking." And they couldn't. They could in the yard, but they couldn't hear them.
Oh, okay. So
They couldn't hear them in the house, so it was fine.
Oh, okay. Are duplexes more cheaper than like a regular single
Yeah, I
family?
think overall a little bit, just because it's less cost to the builder. It's one roof,
Okay, I guess that's why they're okay. I always wondered that because you know how like
less siding, less everything,
okay.
less windows.
Oh, that makes sense. I guess because yeah, if you're a builder, instead of buying 2 lots, you have maybe one, and then you just make it all just one. And I guess there's I should talk to a builder now. Like I guess one. I don't know if it'll be one line, but everything just goes to that one. I guess one house type of thing, right?
No, there's 2 sewer lines. There's 2 electrical services. There's 2. I mean, you don't share anything other than a common wall.
Oh, okay. So it's,
Yeah, and a roof, obviously. But
oh, okay. So that's what it is. Would there be a reason why someone would want to just rent? Is there a reason someone just say, hey, I just want to rent?
I see it all the time with folks who are like retirement age. They get to a point where, to your point about liking renting, because why would I don't want to cut the lawn. I don't. When you get old again, you'll get to a point where you won't want to. You will want to have all that so that you can have control over it, and then you'll get to a point where you get, hopefully 10 or 15 years older than me, and say, I really want to go south for the winter, and I don't want to have to worry about my furnace breaking down. I don't want to have to worry about shoveling the snow. I don't want to have to worry about any of that. So I'm just going to rent, and then let the landlord worry about if the furnace goes out or if the roof needs to be replaced. They just want to have a carefree kind of life. and they don't want to have to, especially if like they lose a spouse, they don't have maybe somebody who's, or they're not physically able to get on the roof and clean out the gutters, they just want it to be somebody else's job.
Okay, so there's no like one right answer, just different people, different
Oh
things.
my gosh, no. My dad's 87. He lives in a twin home on the golf course. He does not clean out his gutters, by the way. But, he would prefer to live like that than have the responsibility of a full house. He has no basement, so he doesn't have to worry about having water in his basement. It's just a little more carefree way of living.
Now, buying a house, is there like a rule of thumb? Like, hey, this should be like % of your, I guess, your paycheck, or you should have this much down?
Sure.
What would you recommend for people?
It's called a debt to loan ratio, DTR, and they vary by bank, essentially. So some lenders are willing to go 35%. Other lenders are willing to go even higher than that. I think it used to be 33% when I first got into real estate, and now it's gone up, but it varies by lender. And some lenders will only make you put down, 3%, depending on, there's so many different loan programs that there's a grants for grad programs through South Dakota Housing. There's first time home buyer loans. There's a physician loan that anyone who's been to medical school gets, because those people need the financial break.
What would you recommend for like a down? What would you recommend for a down payment? Or same thing also depends?
Well, I think it depends on your situation. So I know people who have had, either through gift through family or hard work and saving that had $20,000 to put down. Okay. And a lot of times you don't need to have that much. The difference between your payment between putting $20,000 down and $10,000 down may not be that much, but having that $10,000 cushion to either buy furniture for the new house or have an emergency fund in case the furnace goes out that first year, there's a little bit of wisdom in that. So you have to just run different scenarios. Lenders will do that for you. Run different scenarios based on, you might get a better rate the more you put down, you might get a worse rate. So
okay.
It just depends.
It just depends. Yeah, okay. Depends. Same thing like there's that PMI or also depends.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to avoid PMI, you got to have 20% down.
Okay. Do most people have that 20%?
No.
They don't. Oh, okay.
No.
Let's say the houses here in town, what's the average house price that you've seen? Like, or when people buy?
I think last year it was $244,000.
Okay. And
probably higher than that this year.
And what % do people put down?
Depends on the loan program they're getting, but if they're doing either any sort of government-backed loan, VA, FHA, rural development, all of those, it can be anywhere between 3 and 10%.
Man, buying a house seems very, very hard now. I thought it was a little more easier if you go like on Zillow. I'm like, oh, that one looks good. That one looks good.
Yeah.
I didn't think about.
I think usually when they'll give you that estimated payment that they give you in there, they're usually assuming 20% down.
Oh, okay.
So if you see the payment, you need to make sure that you're incorporating.
Then it also depends on your interest
Correct.
rate. And then, snap.
Correct.
So let's go. I want to backtrack a lot more. When you sold, or do you remember like the first time you sold, or when you got your license, the first time you sold a house?
Yes.
How was it?
It was great. I sold it to a wonderful human being named David Lust.
Oh, you still remember?
Who passed away. Yep. Great guy. And he had just graduated from Dartmouth College, and he was coming to USD to go to law school. And he was my dad's childhood best friend's son. So that's how he gave me a call. And he ended up buying a house on Dartmouth Street, which was kismet, right? Because he had graduated from Dartmouth.
That's cool.
And I believe coming from the East Coast, he said, I've got $150,000 to spend on a house in, 1990 or whatever. I'm thinking, oh my God, $150,000 is a brand new house. I'm going to have the best sale I've ever had in my life, And, when he came here and saw what you could get for $150,000, he was like, oh, wait a minute. I don't need to spend that much. So I think we ended up spending $66,000.
Okay. Just like a regular.
Yeah, it was a nice old house right by the law school, on Dartmouth.
Okay. You didn't want to like upsell him or nothing like that?
No, because that's not going to serve him. And it's not, I knew he was only going to be there for 3 years.
I think that might be like one of those misconceptions. And I feel that because I used to, back in, when I was in school, I used to work at Best Buy, and I was working the computers, or I would sell computers.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess people would think if you go to not now, but back then, you go to a Best Buy and they talk to you. So first of all, we never made commission. We just, I don't know.
Sure.
It was never commission based. I got paid hourly, but they always had those targets every day. But I guess I was one of the weird ones because I did have people that upsell, like, for example, they want just a basic computer and then boom, they came out with like a MacBook.
Mm-hmm.
But I would be like the honest guy and be like, hey, what do you really need? Well, how much do you want? This is how I say it. I would say, what do you want? How much? What's your limit? What's your budget? And then they would tell me, I'll show them what they got.
Right.
And then I'll show them like something maybe a little bit higher, but like this has this. What are you going to do it? Is it for school? You don't need that fancy $1,200 computer. Oh, are you going to do a lot of, for example, editing? Yes, it's actually going to benefit you if you have this, but you don't have to do this or do this. So those were all those misconceptions. People thought they're like, oh, they just want to upsell and this and that.
So has anyone ever explained what a fiduciary is to you before?
Mm.
Okay. So if you are investing in like stocks or whatever, there's two different types of investment brokers that you can use. Some are fiduciaries and others are not. And I won't name any companies because I wouldn't even be able to guess. But anyone who, sometimes you'll go to someone and they'll say, I really think you should buy this fund or this stock or whatever. And they might be incentivized to do so. Like you were incentivized to upsell people on Samsung TVs because you might get a bonus for selling 20 Samsung TVs that month, right? Someone who is a fiduciary is only allowed to do what's best in the best financial interest of their client. And so all realtors are fiduciaries. So I am not allowed to do I cannot upsell somebody or try to get them to spend the maximum on I have to do what's best for them and in their best interest, not mine.
Is it unwritten rule or is it a law?
No, that's part of our code of ethics.
Okay.
We have a fiduciary duty.
Fiduciary. Do car salesmen have the same thing or probably not?
I don't know.
I feel like they also do. I mean,
I don't think so, but I don't know. If you didn't have it at Best Buy, they probably didn't.
Because I loved enjoying it, especially when it was back to school, like during the summer, back to school season. And then all these discounts. But I swear, like, I'm not saying it was a bad thing they were doing because, of course, it's a business. They got to make money. They want to do this. The only thing I hated is there was always a target for people applying for a Best Buy card, and I hated that because
it's no good.
No, I knew like they would tell me the situation, and I would be honest about, hey, because they kind of like stretched or they kind of changed the wording. They would say, oh yeah, let's say it's like a soft hit or this and that. I'm like, soft hit? Hey, if it takes like 20 something points. I don't know how soft that is, but then I'll be honest about, hey, probably won't qualify this, but hey, you could get this, try it out because there's like a 2-week return policy, try it out. If you don't like it, just bring it back. Or like if they had like a big thing was the Microsoft Office stuff, we would have to like sell it, and then I would be the guy, and I apologize if my boss back then was listening. I would be like, hey, what school are you going to? Oh, you're going to whatever, UTA or TCC? Get it for free. You don't have to grab this stuff. Or hey, you could just use Google Docs or this and that. So I think I was probably like a horrible salesman bringing in money, but at least I helped them out.
You weren't a fiduciary, but you were a really good human.
There you go.
And that's even better.
Yeah, you guys hiring? Because no, sorry.
Yeah, sure, we're always hiring.
So before I end it, is there like any last things or no? Actually, I do want to ask you because you probably know more about this. So they always say like Vermillion has like a housing issue. I think it's like everywhere. Do you know like a solution that might help out, or is it probably more complicated? Because I know like they got the Jack Powell edition. Mm-hmm. They're hitting up where it used to be Jolly School. Mm-hmm. And then right where, I would say behind Heck's Barbecue, that area, they're making townhomes. And I think Betty Smith had another game plan.
Yeah, Betty's got great ideas.
Yeah, she told me about that on that episode. But
so little known fact, back in the day, it was Betty Smith, myself, our then chamber director, Steve Howe, Jared Higman, and Ted Munster and I met in the boardroom at the chamber office. And we discussed Bliss Point. And Betty and I went to Sioux Falls and met with Koch Hazard Architects. And they created a basic plan, which eventually became Bliss Point.
Oh, so that's
Yeah.
how it.
Yeah. I mean, it changed a lot from what we first, but it's still great. But I mean, it was pretty cool. It was fun.
Are you guys gonna do that again? I'm guessing. Or Betty?
Well, I
Smith's
think
plan?
Betty's got a different idea. Hers is more for like a co-housing concept, which is amazing. We, forever and ever and ever, people tried to say how do we get young people to live in Vermillion? And I think that's great. I love it when I have people who graduated from USD that stay here. This is my favorite thing ever. But there is a really great environment in this town for people who are either young retirees.
Hmm?
I think this is probably the demographic. I'm like my uncle, for instance, and aunt. My uncle graduated from college here in the late 60s, early 70s, and went away, lived all over the country, did amazing things. You should interview him, by the way. He's amazing. And so is his wife. And they were trying to decide where they were going to live in retirement. And it was between Charleston, South Carolina, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and here.
Really?
And they chose here.
How come?
And they love it.
Oh.
Well, you'd have to ask him.
Okay.
But I mean, I could guess, but I mean, it's just really cool. It's and they're totally involved. They're on boards all over town, and they contribute to their community. They attend events. It's great. And and they're not the only ones. I mean, I see people like that all over town. And when we want people to volunteer and we want people to be involved, you've got all of these amazing people who are between 65 and 100, and they're great. And if you go to Ribs, Rods, and Rock and Roll, or you go to an art gallery opening, or you go to the things that we want people to support, Thursdays on the Platts, you will see a ton of people in that age demographic. And here's the thing. They've all got money. And so they go out to eat. They, go to movies. They attend sporting events for high school and USD. I mean, these are the people who can afford to do all of it, and they can afford houses that.
Oh, yeah.
So
I never even paid attention to that demographic. But yeah, now that you mention it, because
we've got the OLLI, the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. We've got all these amazing professors here on campus that will allow them to audit their classes. And I mean, this is a great place to live when you're a retiree. Think about it.
And just imagine retiring here, and then also they got go-karts and batting cages.
Right.
I'm just saying that.
Right.
That would be sweet.
But think about this though. The person who is maybe 75 now and versus the person who's 75 20 years from now, we're going to want different things in retirement. The people 20 years ago who retired, they probably, weren't as active. They would never have thought maybe at that time to go to a yoga class or walk the bike trails or, I don't know. I think it would have just been different.
Right. Because now I'm thinking about if I, in a few years, if I retire, what would I be doing?
I mean,
would it be active?
Nursing homes and assisted living, go look at some of them in Sioux Falls. They are like little cities, and they are active generations. That's not for people to sit in their room and fade away. They have the one where my sister's mother-in-law lives. They have a woodworking shop, a indoor swimming pool, a movie theater, a bar, a library, all of it inside the building.
So that's why Betty Smith was saying about, I guess, having
co-housing.
Neighborhood and people being kind of together. And
did she tell you the mouse story?
No.
So they did a test on mice, and there were two different rooms they could go to. One of them had a little dropper of fluid that had cocaine in it, and the other one had a room full of other mice. And they proved that they could get the mice addicted to cocaine, and they were strung out, and they would literally crawl over broken glass to get to the cocaine. But once they had the colony of other mice that they could be around and have a social structure with, they abandoned the cocaine.
Oh, that's why that isolation is really bad.
So the theory is that people need to be around other people. They need to have society and environment. And the former pastor at the UCC church talked about that. He did a great TED talk about it, saying, people need to have a sense of community, whether it's at church or it's, a local group they're a part of. And so if you spend so much time by yourself and become a silo, you're not going to have that. I mean, it literally will affect your mental health.
I wonder who came up with that experiment. The Snap. Okay.
I don't know. Ask Doug Peterson from the psych department at USD. He's another guy you should be interviewing.
All right. Now you got to give me all these people
Sure.
contacts. So yeah, I think now is a good time. But I'm kind of interested on that stuff. I need to get you back on again. But yeah, I think this is a good time to end.
Talk to me after I open. Oh, and by the way, it also had a bowling alley, 17-lane bowling alley, so you could have leagues and tournaments.
That's the game plan.
In addition to the batting cages and everything else, yes.
So you'd
bowling
like
alley.
There we go. See, I don't.
So we used to have a bowling alley for years.
And then what happened to it?
Well, it went away. It got purchased by somebody, and then they took it out.
Oh, really? But
Well, I mean, the equipment was literally like original from the 60s, so nobody could repair it. And it was only wide enough to be 12 lanes. I know way too much about bowling alleys.
No, that was cool.
But it was only wide enough to be 12 lanes, and you cannot have sanctioned tournaments with only 12. You have to have 17 lanes.
So if you had a bowling alley and, in your
Wouldn't you go bowling every weekend?
I would.
Right?
Would you have it just like a regular classic bowling alley, or would it be like, I've seen some that are like kind of glow in the dark, or they have lights, or how?
Oh, I'd do both. I mean, you could have the lights on for the bowling league for the people who are actually serious about bowling, and then turn the lights off at night when the league is over and do all the fun stuff. There's a great bowling alley, great operator over in Yankton. That guy's amazing.
Did they take that bowling alley out in Centerville, or is it still there?
I don't know.
Because we went there they had their fall festival a few weeks ago, and it was great. It was a great time, and I saw where the bowling alley was, but it looked like either they took it down or they're remodeling, but I didn't see it, and I was like, oh, that's a shame, because we've been there, I don't know, once or twice, and I'm like, well, I guess where's the other bowling alley next? But you said there's one in Yankton?
Yeah, great one.
Okay.
And fun fact, because I'm the Cliff Clavin of stupid information, is the bowling alley is actually built on the site where they hung Jack McCall from the Wild Bill Hickok. He murdered Wild Bill Hickok in a poker fight in Deadwood, and they took him to trial in Yankton. He was found guilty in a building downtown in Yankton, and they hung him. They hung Jack McCall right where the bowling alley is now.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Did you know about there was a few murders here in town? Like some guy, I don't know if it was in the 40s. He was looking for these like lawyers and he shot him.
Someday you'll have to come to Nerd Night, and I'm going to do a talk about haunted Vermillion and all of the crazy things. And yeah.
Because we were.
So yes, I do know.
Okay, that's why. Because I was filming with someone named Evelyn Schlenker.
Of course.
Yeah, and I was telling her, has anything like spooky ever happened? And she mentioned that. She told me the story. And I was like, that happened here in Vermillion? And I don't know, I forgot where, but like she said in downtown, and that's why there was like a splotch. It's because we did it in October, and I was trying to figure out if there's any like scary stuff. But do you know any other scary things in town?
Yeah, but I'll save that for the next podcast.
Okay. Yeah, we'll save it for the next one. But yeah, I should end it right now. But I do want to thank you so much, Michelle.
Yeah, you're welcome. This is fun.